It's a brand new week, and it's the Montreal Canadiens doing squadoosh, nada, zilch, bupkis. They didn't do a darn thing. NHL trade deadline came and went. We'll get into the winners and losers because I think it lived up to the hype man, from the Brock Nelson to Colorado to everything we saw on Friday, with almost every team and close to 50 players finding new homes. It's a brand new week. Let's bring in the voice of the Laval Rocket, Shaun Campbell. Of course, you listen to him weekdays from 10 until 2 on TSN 690 with Mitch Gallo. For Campbell v. Gallo, it's Starr v. Campbell today. Shaun, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's going on, Shaun? I always love being here.
Hey, listen, it's always great to have you, and we always get good engagement. People always are interested in what you have to say because it's a good time to be a Canadiens fan. The timing is interesting, but there were some people unhappy heading into the weekend where the Montreal Canadiens, they sat on their hands and didn't make a move. Ken Hughes put the challenge at the feet of his captain. You don't want me to trade your teammates? Go win games. They passed that test with flying colors. What's your take on Hughes and Gorton and the upper management not making a move on deadline day?
I'm going to say I was a little shocked that there was nothing, like absolutely nothing done. But when you heard what Ken Hughes had to say, it made sense. He walked up at the beginning of the season, told the group, said, "This is the only year where I don't have a plan when it comes to trade deadline. You will dictate that plan." And he even said that at the Four Nations face-off break, they had a certain plan in mind, but then chatted with his captain, and his captain said, "Hold off. Let's see what we do." And they went out and rattled 5 straight wins. They changed his mind, or at least deviated what the plan would have been. And now with the Canadiens right in the mix at a playoff spot, which was the challenge to the players at the beginning of the season, how can a general manager go back on his word when he said, "Hey guys, I'm going to challenge you. Keep us in the mix at the end of the season." And when he had to make the big, bold decision to keep or trade or move some UFAs, he said, "You guys came up to the challenge and you got us in the mix. I'm going to accept that." Now, there was options to go and bring a body in. But you bring a body in, look at the way that this team is constructed. Besides the injuries, they don't want to pull out even your 12th forward. What happened to the Canadiens when you took Heineman out of the lineup? Everything fell apart. And he was the least used out of all 12 forwards, but he played his part. Marty St. Louis has his 12 and 6 that he has in mind, and he's just going to move forward with it. And for the Canadiens, they're going to get a boost if Guhle's able to come back. And then they got to figure out what to do with Doc being out for the season. Is it Beck? Is it going to be someone else? Do they move Newhook into the middle? That's the only real question mark for the Canadiens moving around. But I'm okay with what the Canadiens did. I like that there's a general manager that uses his captain, that uses his coach, and put up a challenge. They were up for the challenge, and he accepted it. Because if they were in the mix and then he sold off all the pieces, then he's going back on his word a little bit. And what's he going to get? Okay, he could have had a 4th round and a 6th round. I mean, maybe when Beauvillier went for a 2nd rounder, I got excited for Armia for a little bit. But other than that, there really wasn't much out there with the assets that the Canadiens were holding on to.
Yeah, you saw put up the video of Kaiden Guhle skating at Brossard on Friday. Awesome news. And I think if I read Ken Hughes correctly on Friday when he spoke about the reasons why he didn't make moves and he was asked about Kaiden Guhle, if I read between the lines, and I think I did correctly, if the Canadiens are within a point or two of the playoff push with a handful of games to go, I can see a world of Kaiden Guhle will push it to come back. But if they're, 3 wins out from a playoff run, risk reward ratio wouldn't make sense to press Kaiden Guhle back into duty, knowing that the playoff race is over. But what would you say to the fan that has the reaction after Friday's inactivity from Ken Hughes that, wait a minute, Kirby Dach's not playing again. Owen Beck plays between 7 and 10 minutes. Jake Evans can't play every day as the 2C. The Canadiens are very much in the thick of it, Shaun. Didn't get any help for Nick Suzuki at 2C. So go on, you captain. Go play 27 minutes a night for the next 20 games. What would you say to the fan that had that perspective of not getting a 2C?
Well, what 2Cs were out there? And look at the price tags for those 3Cs. The price tag that would have been Jake Evans if he didn't sign up. What Scott Lawton went for.
Oh,
You're not talking about 2Cs. You're talking about 3Cs. I think that Ken Hughes decided that if he's going to go out for that center, he's going to do it in the offseason. He did say that he inquired about players that he would be intrigued about, but it doesn't mean that they were players that were on TSN trade bait boards. They were just players that the Canadiens were intrigued about, and he went knocking. But it wasn't really the time to make that move. If there was a deal to be had, sure. But think about it. The everybody who wanted Dylan Cousins, what did Ottawa have to give up to get Dylan Cousins? Well, they had to give up a 2C to get a 2C.
So wait a minute, you're telling me Kirby Dach is not Josh Norris?
Kirby Dach has not scored 35 goals in the National Hockey League. Kirby Dach is hurt right now.
Yes.
And I understand people are like, well, Norris has been hurt before, and maybe that was the deal that could have been there. I get that you're having that argument, but I'll ask you, Shaun, do you want Josh Norris or do you want Kirby Dach?
I want Josh Norris.
I want Josh Norris.
You don't even need a second to think about it. Let's be honest. If you're watching hockey, you don't need time to think about it.
And I understand Habs fans, they wanted, maybe some improvements, but it just wasn't there for the Canadiens. It was almost like a non-existent trade deadline for them. They could have made it existent if they wanted to trade their UFAs, but to bring pieces in for their situation on the outside looking in the mix, selling their future. No, they're building for today and tomorrow. And their build for today is about this group. Show us what you got. That's what Ken Hughes did. And now they have to go out and do it. And I expect big things after the trade deadline from the Canadiens because of the vote of confidence from that group. They look around that room. They saw Jake Evans say, I want to stay here. Armia and Dvorak and Savard, they want to be part of this run. They didn't want to go somewhere else. They didn't want to say, trade me to a contender so I can go win my Stanley Cup. They said, no, we're doing something cool here. I want to be a part of it. And honestly, for Armia, Savard, and even Dvorak, they're probably going to play very well because, one, it's a contract year, and two, outside of the Canadiens, I don't know where they fit in the NHL. So besides getting a contract back with the Canadiens, and I don't expect all three to be back, but maybe one or even two, they get to prove their worth to their organization down the stretch right now.
That's Shaun Campbell on TSN 690. When you talk about the summer and what's to come in the offseason, I think you and I see it eye to eye. And I guess I would be dramatic that if Montreal doesn't solve the 2C problem this summer, it will be a fatal flaw. My hot take, I expect the Canadiens to make the playoffs next year. I would be disappointed. I'll sit here and I'll tell you right now, I would be disappointed if the Canadiens didn't make the playoffs. They have shown me enough signs of legitimate life that they should be there. And heck, if we just go back to the Four Nations break, Shaun, if they pick up 1-2 points instead of looking as bad as they did, hypotheticals, ifs and buts, right? I get that part, but walk me through who that 2C might be. Like, I'm not reclamation guy anymore. Am I right when I tell you that I think the fans in Montreal want someone established, who's done it, who has a track record, who is more often than not healthy and not hurt? That's who this market wants to play behind Nick Suzuki. Are you thinking along those lines as well, or something different?
No more question marks. That's you walk into the season and the Canadiens had some question marks. And Kirby Dach was one of those question marks. Juraj Slafkovsky was a question mark of what kind of season he was going to have. Anderson, Gallagher, question marks. Montembeault was a little bit of a question mark. Some of those questions have been answered. Some of those questions have been reestablished to very consistent hockey players just at another level. But Kirby Dach is a question mark. And this injury just adds another question mark and maybe an exclamation point with the question mark. When you get to double down on that, that's what Kirby Dach, question mark, exclamation point. That's how you're going to write his name now. As much as you want support for Nick Suzuki, I think it's vital that the Canadiens get a center iceman for Ivan Demidov. That is priority number one. And as much as you could say, Suzuki's going to play with him, the Canadiens have pretty much established that Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slafkovsky are a thing. And it's working. I actually personally asked the coach about Suzuki, and he said it's Slafkovsky and Caulfield who are playing at another level, helping Suzuki get to a level that he's been at before. And to me, and whatever happens down the stretch, likely those three are going to be together to start next season. Demidov is coming in. Please, I don't want Demidov with Alex Newhook. I don't want Demidov with Jake Evans. I don't want Demidov, as much as I love him, Owen Beck. I think that Demidov needs to have, as you said, an established 2C. Priority number one. And this, I'd even mention Doc, because Doc's going to be there. But at this point, I'm slapping him on the wing and say, good luck. You're not playing center anymore. Until you show me that you're a everyday NHLer that can produce, you're not going in the middle of the ice. You're playing wing.
Fun, superstitious stuff. Shaun Campbell, thanks as always, my man. Great stuff. Everybody enjoys your perspective, and it's nice to talk about the AHL and the Canadiens farm team on the come up and looking for bigger and better things. And we'll be listening to you, call all the action, and of course, enjoying you on TSN 690, 10 to 2 with Mitch Gallo. Shaun, thanks as always for the time.
Thanks. Always love it. Love being in Laval. Get to be there all month of March with all the games. They're home the whole time.
Enjoy Saint Martin, Centropolis, and the beautiful Laval. Thanks, Shaun.
Have a good one.